Good evening. First, giving all glory, honor, and praise to God who is the head of my life. I want to thank my husband, who has been nothing but a support, my husband of 8 years. And everybody in here knows, especially Miss Shane, when your husband runs, or your spouse runs for office, you run for office too. So thank you so much. I thank my mother for always being my support, my backbone, and making my lunch every day. Thank you, Mommy. Thank God for my sisters. Trippy already told you about one of them. One was my campaign manager. The other one was my mouthpiece. You figure out which one was which. And I thank God for my niece and nephew. My nephew said, please don't talk about me, Aunt Sherry, but I must. He's 11 years old, and he would go campaigning with me. And when he would go out, the senior citizens would say, oh, he's so cute. And I'd push him. I said, give him a piece of candy, do something, give him a hug. Get Aunt Sherry more votes. But I have to say thank you to my grandmother is 86 years old, and she lives in Arkansas, so she couldn't be here tonight. But every week while I was campaigning, my grandmother would get on the phone, and she said she prayed with her prayer band, and she said, just call me when you get to the victory line because we already claimed the victory, baby. So I thank God for my grandmother. But just be real brief. My journey to this seat started long before I was even born. I'm a daughter of a proud military man. He served in the Army, and my mother is an educator. What ended up happening in my life, my parents told me my father returned home after serving this country, proudly serving this country during a time of war. And my father returned home to his wife of 4 years, and they decided they want to buy a home in the 6th District. They found property on South Broome Street. The real estate agent was ecstatic for them. Only she called back and she said, here's the issue. And I'm going to paraphrase, people with your characteristics will not be welcome on South Broome Street. The issue is, and I told my parents, you guys should have never told me that story. They told me at the age of 8. And for those of you who know a little something about God's numbers, when I was 8, I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker. I went to CET with my father and my Uncle Bubby, Clarence Dorsey, so I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. Later on, God would bless me, and I created a film called Justice for All through my production company, SWAP Productions, LLC. SWAP is an acronym for Sisters with a Purpose. Already knew I was ordained for this. At 8, my father also started taking me canvassing, working with other politicians, being in the community, knocking on doors. So I knew that that was going to happen. And as I told you, I've been married for 8 years, and 8 is God's number of new beginnings, Reverend Moore. Yes, it is. All right. So moving on with that. Come home, my father says to me, he says, Sherry, they may have denied us where we could live, but they will never deny us where my children will be educated. So as a result of that, Bishop Morton, my father, my mother, and my Uncle Bubby sacrificed and sent my sisters and me to St. Elizabeth's. I'm a proud graduate. I went to St. E's all 12 years. My campaign manager went to St. E's 12 years. My sister Anita went to St. Elizabeth's. My godbrother Clayton went to St. Elizabeth's. Do you hear the Dorsey tradition here? But that would prove to be very helpful because as I would run for office in the 6th District, which is St. E's country, look at God planting that seed. So I go to college, meet my hubby, because I married my college sweetheart. And I'm going to tell him this. I've never told him this. Whenever he comes home and he puts the key through the door, when I'm actually home, my heart does still skip a beat. I love you. So one day after campaigning with Horace Knight, who's here, I went and picked up my mother. I said, Mommy, I need you to take a ride with me. And she said, okay, but I need to go to Walmart. I got to get my vitamins. Mommy, just take a ride. So we go for this ride. And I was raised on Clayton Street. Went to Judy Johnson Park, hung out the whole 9 yards. So we turned from Clayton Street, turned on to 2nd Street. I'm giving you a tour of the west side because that's where I'm from, okay? So we go on down to Lancaster Avenue, make the right on South Broome Street. And I asked my mother, I said, do you see anything? And my mother said, if only your father was here to see this. I'm going to take you back a little bit. Because before my father passed away in 2007, my dad, my sisters, and all of us, we were eating crabs, and my dad said, one of my daughters is going to run for office, and 2 of those sisters are going to help her win. So, moving forward, take my mother for this ride on South Broome Street, and my mother says, tear streams down her face, because I said, where you were denied housing, your daughter's campaign signs are all up and down South Broome Street. So I sit here before you as the first woman of color and the first woman to ever serve in the 6th District, because we serve a good God. I thank God for using me as the vessel to bring about change in the 6th District. And more importantly, I thank you for your vote of confidence. Also, I shall work diligently in the 6th District, but also throughout the city of Wilmington to bring about change. And Mommy, Daddy's prophecy came to pass. I love you.